Hello, Paul and Angelica. Really wonderful to meet you both. I'm very excited. As I said, I'm a huge fan of your movies. I think your films are making a really significant contribution to slasher horror. It's something really innovative, which I'm really excited about. And I just want to learn a bit about your sort of experiences in making them and what sort of things you're thinking about, just to understand it. And you've done, I know you guys have done loads of interviews and I watched a whole bunch of them, so I feel like I know you already a little bit.
Oh, cool.
Gender. So the issue of gender is quite a big one in slasher movies. I know you guys have seen a lot of horror movies.
Yeah.
There's a tendency when people write about them to suggest it's like a woman being chased by a guy, and there's something wrong with that. They think there's something wrong with it. But your movies seem to do something totally different. And I know you're a partnership, which is relatively untypical, working together. So, like, are you thinking about gender? Is one person writing one thing and one person writing another? Like, how does it work?
I mean, there is the advantage of, a man and a woman writing together, especially when you have a lot of female characters. Most slasher movies are written by men, so it just comes from a man's point of view, of course. Not that a man can't, be in tune with the female characters at all. I mean, that's, totally not true, but it does help, to have both sides, and our actresses have commented on that, like even most recently. One of them pointing out, "Oh, I can tell that this was written by a woman," as opposed to I can tell this part was written by a man. So, like, we do collaborate on our scripts. Definitely, Angie in an editorial position mostly. Like, I'll write out the rough draft and the concept and stuff, and she'll read it and go through it and add things or take away things. Yeah, since most of our films are female centric, we do have a lot of female points of view in our movies, and it's important to us.
I think a lot of it starts off strong as well because we're having conversations about like friendships that I've had or like coworkers or like the dynamic. He hears a lot of my experiences from like my personal life, so he already knows about like the experiences that I've had like with female to female or female to male or in the workforce or amongst friends. So he is already familiar with like all the things that I've talked about as like experiencing or what my friends have gone through. So he kind of already has that in his head. And when he's coming up with ideas, we start basing it loosely around maybe something that I've very loosely experienced or someone I know has experienced. And he'll come up with like the main concept of an idea, and then I just kind of help fine tune and shape it.
We often take conflicts from real life, I mean, if you want to be a writer, it helps to be a good listener. So just listen to people talk and listen to how they talk too, and their points of view.
I'm so interested because they're so sort of self-aware. They're sort of women working in like they're like guided by men. They have like these male bosses, like making them do. They're weirdly self-conscious. They're sort of engaging with that idea, and then it's always like a strong woman that sort of suddenly picks up the axe, and then she's like doing justice.
Yeah,
I think it's a really powerful image, especially like Slashlorette Party, which is in the bridal gear. That's like amazing stuff. So let me ask you another question. This is a huge one. This is really the big picture question. Budget. So you're working in a marketplace where people are getting like $60 million or $200 million to make a movie. You are kind of crowdfunding, Indiegogo. You're reaching out to fans. I've seen you offering sort of credits and engagement with fans and stuff like that. How does budget? How do you feel it's shaping your movies now? Because I can tell you that the fan stuff that I read, so I'm kind of studying it all. They regard it as having a sort of punk aesthetic. Like they like your budget is different.
Right.
They see it as authentic, like something really exciting that they don't get from like Halloween 27 or whatever is being churned out by Hollywood. They like what you do. So, like, is it a struggle for you? Is it like the things you want to do you can't do? Like, how does it how does it factor in?
I mean, there's definitely a DIY aesthetic, of course, that comes with independent films, indie movies that fans of indie movies, like you pointed out, like. They like that aesthetic, that rough around the edges, using your creativity to solve problems or to come up with things that, big budget movies take for granted, having like, good acting or good lighting or good effects, those type of things. So for us, yeah, we definitely fully embrace that. And, having limitations does force you to be creative. And yeah, it does, shape, movies in a way. Cause, I mean, if you follow like the Robert Rodriguez, advice, like try to write around something you have or something you have access to, or you could get access to, because there's been times where we don't have access to something, but we just think we could probably get it. So like for Slashlorette Party, for example, it's like a one location film primarily. It's a cabin in the woods horror movie, and that's how they go. So we thought we could probably do something like that. It was kind of started as an idea, like maybe we could do something like that. We just have all the actors stay in the cabin. Everyone stays really close by, so we don't have to keep coming back and forth. Try to shoot like in 3 or 4 days in a row. So that definitely was behind the idea of doing a movie like that and seeing if we could pull it off, almost like a challenge in a way. And so we had to prepare a lot of things before we did that. We had to obviously schedule all the people and make sure they had the time, because we're working with people who are work for a living or go to school. They're not professional actors. None of us are professional, so we're all friends, things like that. So it takes a lot of prep time, and the effects as well. Coming up with the effects on the spot sometimes because something didn't work. So it's a big challenge, but it does have that DIY aesthetic to it, and that does definitely impart on the movie itself.
Right. I think something to be said that a lot of people may not know is that we also were raised not poor, but we were very, our families, at least definitely in my family, we learned how to stretch a dollar at a very young age. So that's just a skill that like I've always had in the back of my mind. So when it comes to making films, at least in the very beginning, we tried to do everything for free. So if it was asking a friend, or can we shoot at our friend's house, or can we borrow XYZ? So our first feature film was made for like, I mean,
$600.
Not even $600.
Way
less. And that's very generous. And really the price was just to like eat food, like to feed the people that were working with us. So there wasn't really a budget. So, and we've never really expected there to be a budget. So we've always used that angle of trying to be creative. Definitely the Robert Rodriguez approach of like, how can we beg, borrow, and steal, so to speak. And so once we started doing these crowdfunding campaigns, we didn't expect anyone to contribute to them, because we were like, we're nobody from nowhere. Why would anybody give us anything? So we fully anticipated to make the movies regardless of if we raised any money at all. We worked full time, and we just have always slowly upped our budget from our own personal pockets over the years. And then it wasn't until Streets of Vengeance that we did our first campaign, and we raised like $1,000. Was it $1,500? And we were like, oh my gosh, we're rich.
Yeah, we're like, wow,
this is so crazy. So from that first campaign to raise $1,500 to this current project we're working on to raise over $50,000, it's come a huge way. And it's
is that OnlyFangs?
Yes.
OnlyFangs, yes.
So it's 50,000. Wow. So what a great trajectory you've got.
Yeah.
Yes. So every project,
50,000,
we've raised more and more every project that we've done, which is wild. And it's still a struggle, only because we challenge ourselves to try and be better every project. So we could still continue to try and borrow and steal and we don't actually steal, but we still tried to keep things as cheap as possible. But now we're also trying to make ourselves a little bit better, whereas maybe Paul and I used to do our special effects on our own. Now we're like, let's hire somebody that like knows what they're doing so we can be a little bit better.
Right. And and that's what saying that's exactly what happened. Like I said, Slashlorette Party, single location in the cabin in the woods, kind of trying to make things happen. And now with OnlyFangs, it is a much bigger movie, and the biggest movie we've ever done ever. So that did, influence our casting, like in a lot of people from out of state, because we're in California, and hiring a special effects artist and paying someone who, is specialized and then talented in that area. I mean, we just shot this past weekend with our special effects artist, another pickup shot for OnlyFangs. So yeah, the budget definitely, you can see it change throughout our films.
To us, it feels like a luxury now.
Yeah.
So in the past, we would ask our friends, or if we met someone who worked at Chipotle, we're like, "Hey, you have like a really cool look. Like, would you ever want to be in a movie?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." So it's always been coworkers and friends or cousins or something that have been in our movies, and now we can finally collaborate with other artists that we're fans of, but they're on the other side of the country, because we can afford to say, okay, we will book you a hotel, we will pay for your flight, we will pay you a daily wage. So now we have the means to work with other collaborators that maybe are across the country, either musicians that are from across the world, poster artists from across the world. We can finally afford to pay other artists to collaborate on a project. And we're in a place now where it's not lost on us. Like, we're so grateful for every person that has found out about our campaign and gives $1. We're just like, oh my gosh, why'd they do that?
So important, and I feel like that shapes it, because it's not like an executive is telling you what to do.
Right.
You're doing something collaboratively with people who want to do it, and the fans are sort of making it happen. It's such a grassroots thing. I think
absolutely.
That's really wonderful. I've got to ask you, since we talk about special effects there, I'm curious. I know you've, like Paul, I know you've seen a whole lot of movies. I've seen all your posts of your collections and all sorts of things. Like, what are your film influences? Because I know Kansas Bowling was like a trauma, like a young trauma film director, and I know this, when fans talk about your movies, they love the sort of gratuitous, sort of horrible moment, like the axe, at the end of Murdercise, this sort of thing. Are you doing trauma a little bit? Because it seems to me your movies are sort of beyond slasher. They're doing other things, like pulling them in. Is trauma an influence? Are there other movies that are influencing you?
Oh yeah, I mean, Trauma definitely a big influence. I used to watch like the Trauma marathons on USA Network back in the early '90s, when they used to have them play all day long, or on USA Up All Night. And actually, the poster on your wall back there, Taxi Driver, that's my favorite movie of all time. I'm a big Scorsese fan. He's been a big influence on our work, even if you can't see it in something like Murdercise. Well, maybe you can a little bit. But the point is that, I do love Scorsese, Tarantino, De Palma, Hitchcock, all these great film directors, cinematic directors. But I do have a love for the B movies, Fred Olen Ray, Jim Wynorski, all the Trauma movies, Lloyd Kaufman, of course. So I try to bring all those elements together, because I grew up on those movies. And then, I became, like a cinephile back when I was in college and stuff. So I was just kind of rejected all that. And I was just totally Scorsese, totally Tarantino, everything. And then I started re-embrace it again, maybe 20 years ago, just to go back into what I grew up on. I didn't want to turn my back on that. So I'm trying to blend those things together. There is shades of Rolling Thunder in Cinco de Mayo, shades of Mean Streets and Vice Squad and Streets of Vengeance, So we are definitely influenced by a wider range of movies. Even French New Wave influence in OnlyFangs as well, and in our other films, you can see that throughout. But we just have such a wide range of directors that have influenced us.
Wow, that's really cool. I love the retro sort of element you've got going, and then all that sort of range of tastes, of movies, you take from everywhere. And it does end on a really gory finish as well. They do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the gory end of Taxi Driver is a huge influence on everything I do, because it just, that to me is the perfect ending. It just has that big clash and that catharsis of blood spraying everywhere. So
one of our feature films, which is not something that's been distributed and it's not really well known because it's not a horror film, is the lead actor is based off Travis Bickle. So he's got that look. The storyline is very much Taxi Driver meets Wes Anderson, kind of. So our taste in movies is complete opposite. Almost it's very different, I would say.
Yeah, it's like a diagram, it kind of meets in the middle,
Yeah.
but it's...
So we're kind of bringing our different tastes to our projects, and that's why you get a lot of this like rough, tough, like gory, strong slasher thriller stuff with very feminine characters that are beautiful and gentle and until they're not.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're just combining our stuff. So anytime you see like a montage, like in Streets of Vengeance, there's a montage where she's just driving along the coast and you can see the ocean, and she's just driving around San Francisco. She's wearing a pretty dress. It's like that was all Paul letting me indulge in what I wanted to see. And all their outfits and all that stuff is just us kind of combining the things that we're inspired by and putting it all into our projects.
That's wonderful. And you can see the love of film in it, and film redistributed on TV, and the whole thing of the Elvira kind of reference, all that sort of stuff. It's so cool. Something really interesting in your movies, it seems like you're developing like an ensemble of actors.
Yeah.
So like, it's a bit like, this is a far reference, but there's a British series, a historic one called Carry On Movies, and they used to have all the same actors in like Cleopatra era, and then like medieval era, and all different things. And it's like maybe like Scary Movie series is a little bit like that, when you have the reoccurring actors and everyone knows them, and it sort of becomes like almost like a comedy instead of a horror. Like, is that what's happening with yours? Like, what are you going for when you're picking these actors?
Mostly we're going for people that we can connect with and have a certain enthusiasm and energy. That's what we thrive off of. Like, the reason why we bring actors back is because they have an energy and we love being around them mostly. It just kind of so happens to be like, I don't know if luck or happenstance that we started working with Ginger Lynn and Drew Marvick at the same time. And then we just started carrying them along in every movie that we do because, we just like their work, and when they love collaborating with us, we love collaborating with them. Nina Lene Kent, she's someone that we just connected with like personally, and she's not an actor. We just like auditioned her for a short film, like at a coffee shop, and she was just, so nice and sweet, and we just got along, and just kind of come from similar backgrounds and experiences. And when she's around, she just really brings the energy to a set, and when you really need it, because sets are, film shoots are very, very long, and you need someone who can just stay up and be positive like throughout the whole thing, like never complains, never throws a fit, never gets mad or angry or anything. They're just, for her in particular, she's just always down, a big wealth, a fountain of energy, and that's something you just can't replicate in people. So when you find someone like that, you just got to hold on to them and bring them along for everything. But yeah, the ensemble, I've always loved ensembles, like, again, Spanish Scorsese, I've always loved seeing, Harvey Keitel and Joe Pesci show up in all these movies.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
De Niro.
De Niro, exactly. Yeah, how could I forget De Niro? So yeah, I do like that, and I do love that from those movies, and like Wes Anderson, he tends
to bring back like his favorite staples. I kind of view it also similarly to like an SNL, like a Saturday Night Live cast, where they have like their mainstays that are there season after season, and hopefully they'll come along for the next season, and maybe they can't because they're too busy with other things. There's a lot of people that we'd still love to collaborate, but things maybe they moved, or maybe they started a new job, and so maybe they're not in one project, but then they'll come back for another one.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's kind of what we try to do, is just build up our little army of our favorite people that they just have such a great attitude. They're helpful. They're resourceful. They not only bring their acting skills and great attitude, but they're also like, oh, I also know someone who owns a barn, or I know someone who owns a limo, or they'll try to help us make the movie.
Very resourceful.
People who are like helpful for us, and they just are just so happy to be part of it. That attitude really helps carry us through the times that we're exhausted and
tired.
Like, why are we doing this? So having great people, it is part of a key to our success, is like trying to surround ourselves with people who have such positive attitudes. They're really encouraging and helping us instead of slowing us down.
Right. The last time we shot with Ginger Lynn in Las Vegas earlier this year, there were some people who were hungry on the set and didn't get to go get anything to eat. She said, "Oh, I'll make you guys something," like while we were setting up lights and stuff. So she started making us like these burger tacos, I think. They're like ground up beef and like in like a quesadilla type of thing. So she was just making food for everybody on the set. Just
and letting us shoot there.
And letting us shoot at her house and bringing out snacks and just being so welcoming and generous.
She did not have to do that.
No, she doesn't have to do that at all. I mean, she works on all kinds of movie sets where, she is the star and they cater to her. So for her to help us out and be so generous and welcoming us into her house and like a family. I mean, she always says like we're family. So I guess that's basically kind of what it is.
Yeah,
like
basically
a film family.
Exactly. We basically have built our own film family and try to keep it going.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I know that, your fans, and what I read, they love this. It's like you're making stars here. You're making people into stars and you're building a relationship where the fans know these characters and they sort of know, like when they see like Drew Marvick, they're sort of, they know they're waiting for his crazy moment where he's going to say some wild stuff. Like when he does that speech about the 401k or the or the scene with Jessa Plux and he's talking about the unions. Oh my god. That's just cinema genius. You have these moments, these standout moments, which I think are just wonderful.
Yes.
So good. So what about, I'm going to ask you the flip side. So you guys are really efficient with your production and everything, and you're sort of using the stardom of people who are accessible, who've got some stardom. And a lot of the women in your films, they have, let's say, like alternative digital stardom. They have a sort of adult entertainment following, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they're managing that. Is that something, does that help your success? Because they have like Instagram, they got fans, they can promote the movies.
Yeah.
Is that like a big part of it, do you think?
It was totally strategic, actually. Back when we did Streets of Vengeance, we worked with normal people that are just from around our town.
Mm-hmm.
But since the movie deals, like the story is set in the adult film world, we were thinking about how we could round the movie out more, make it more realistic, more believable. So I was telling Paul, like, I bet we could hire an actual adult film star to be in the movie. And he was like, what? How do we even, who?
Yeah, that was never even a thought at the beginning of writing the script.
Like, how do we even get in contact with them? I don't even know any. Like, how do we? So we did our own little digging and found a few real adult film stars and reached out and they said yes. So we have Ginger Lynn's in there, former, major adult film star, and we had Sophie D, Alexis Amore, Joanna Angel, and it's funny to see like the fans that they brought to, like the eyes they brought to Streets of Vengeance. And then after that, we were like, okay, that's pretty cool. So after Streets of Vengeance, then we were like, okay, we need to bring more people that have like big following, because once they start sharing like, hey, I'm in this project, it's just going to attract more attention to the project. So people like Jessa Flux, who's like huge in the independence world. She's someone who has come on to a couple of our projects now. And like Victoria, Crystal Shea. There's been a lot of they have big followings and they have great Lil Puck on this film.
On this film, yeah.
And so it was definitely something that was intentional to have some people that have really big followings. Like that's not the main important thing to us, because we definitely want them to have a personality where they can actually act or make their scene believable, but also make it something that their fans and our fans would enjoy, like come together to make this thing that everyone will enjoy. And a lot of people are discovering Jessa or Crystal or Victoria or whoever, and they're like, oh, and they do this other thing on the side, so I'm going to support them. Or they bring their fans and they're like, oh, I'm going to support this movie.
Yeah, they've told us.
It's kind of like cross.
Yeah,
and it's blurring. It's blurring so much. Like this. Who was in I forgot her name, but she was in Euphoria. There was an actress in Euphoria, and she was doing that kind of work, and she was that kind of famous. And I don't know. I'll put a picture in when I edit. People will see. So it's an industry thing. It's happening, and you're onto something. I think it's so smart. Do you have a lot of communication with fans? Do you get a whole bunch of emails and stuff? Do you meet them ever? Like You must have a lot of active fans.
Yeah, I often get a majority of the messages from fans. People who have contributed. They'll kind of like drop in every once in a while and say, "Hey, have you seen this movie or have you seen that?" And I'll just talk to them a little bit about films. Sometimes if I have time, and I try to reach out to every person that responds to us, every person that's ever bought anything from us or streamed a movie. Sometimes they'll just be like, "Oh, I watched Murdercise," and I'll go on there and say, "Hey, man, thank you for watching," and sometimes they'll freak out like, "Oh wow, you're the creators?" Like, yeah, I'm one of the creators, and so we'll kind of just go back and forth. But yeah, like I get not fan mail, but I get messages from supporters, almost every day. Just either giving us props or just showing support, showing love. Just a comments here and there, just want to know like what we're doing next, or if they're trying to offer some help. Like, hey man, I make music, or I do this, or I do that, or if you need an actor, I want to be in your next film, so it's like, yeah, constant. And, it's really humbling to even have fans, quote unquote, people that like your movies or that know you just from your films. They don't know me from any other way. It's just because we made these movies and they saw them on Tubi. I mean, this one guy, Anthony Yubara, he watched Slashlorette Party on Amazon Prime. He started researching us. He supported us on OnlyFangs. He reached out, and he lives kind of nearby. So we've had him come to our set, our last 2 shoots, when we were up shooting in Sacramento, just help out on set. And we got to talk to him. He got to do some grip work and stuff because he wants to get into filmmaking, and we've had conversations on the phone. So yeah, that's an example where someone just found us online.
He's in the movie.
Now he's in the movie. We put him in a little role in OnlyFangs too. And so that's an example of a guy who was just watching movies on Amazon Prime, saw us, and reached out. And,
I mean, we've made so many friends on the internet that we haven't met in person. But
right.
I mean, chances are if you've talked to us once or if you reached out to us at all, we're just gonna like latch on to you and like make you our friend forever.
Yeah.
So
because we're so appreciative. I mean, this is something that not everyone goes through. Not everyone gets love and support from strangers around the world for your work. So it's very humbling. We're very aware of it and very appreciative. I mean, we couldn't do this without any of them. So
we never thought we'd come this far. So we're still in the phase of like, is this even real? Why do you like this? How did you find us?
Yeah, shout out to Giovanni, Lance Wagner, just to name a couple. Like all these guys that we talk to every day, like they're just big supporters.
That's awesome, and what a fascinating film journey that you're on. And it really is something. It's something it's something new. I wonder what the film would be like if it was crowdfunded completely. What it would look like. It might be very different. So I'm going to ask you. You've got your latest thing. So OnlyFangs. How's OnlyFangs going? And what's after OnlyFangs? That's my other question too.
Yeah, that was a question we got a lot this past weekend. Could we shot some pickup shots for OnlyFangs? We just finished shooting a murder scene in an alley late at night around town involving it's about vampires. OnlyFangs is a vampire film about these group of vampire girls who meet up with this wannabe monster hunter, and they come together and create this app to like turn victims into customers. So we shot this scene, very bloody. A very bloody scene. It was great. I love more blood, the better. We shot a few effect shots this past weekend, so it's coming along great. I was just editing yesterday, actually, that scene, particularly. I stayed up to like 1 a.m. This movie is just so huge and so fun. I just can't wait for people to see all the hard work that's going into this film.
Yeah. I think we might have like 2 shoots left.
Yeah.
It's very
2 or 3
close.
shoots, I would say.
We're like 98, 99% done. So we're super close to being finished. We anticipate the release being this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, it's been the biggest project we've ever done as far as everything. Budget, the number of cast, the number of locations, the number of wardrobe, the number of effects. So I even haven't had a chance to wrap my head around how big it is yet. But I really hope, and I do think that the people who have supported it, I think that they're going to be pleasantly surprised with the outcome. Even I'm pleasantly surprised with the outcome because we hope for things to work out. So if we book a carousel or if we book a skating park or something.
Mhm.
We're hoping that it will work, and then in this case, it did work. So we're like, okay, cool. We got these locations, and we got these people, and
Right.
it's all going to plan. So
Slowly but surely,
slowly
you know.
but surely,
That's how you do it, though.
the
Basically.
real
And-
test will be once the movie comes out and the fan
And-
reaction.
How are people going to see it? Are you going to do like a cinema premiere somewhere? You've got somewhere in mind? Is it going to be on? Because I know you're on like Tubi, I think. The movies are on at the moment. Is that the kind of place people are going to see it?
Yeah, I mean, we are going to try to do like a small little theater run. We do have someone that has a connection to some theaters in California, so we're going to try to do as many as we can. It's definitely coming out on physical media. We have it on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray. Those are the perks that we have right now on Indiegogo, so those are going to be sent out, and it will be available on our Etsy store afterwards. And then, yeah, eventually streaming. Streaming has been very good to us. We just really appreciate this these platforms, because now more people can see these movies and they actually pay, you know, because we've gone into like, you know, try to go the distribution route with a distributor, and then it really turned out so well. So we got our rights back from our films, and now we're self-distributing and we're doing it ourselves. But the streaming is like just such a godsend for filmmakers right now.
Yeah.
So definitely going to be seen on streaming and physical media.
We started making movies before social media or streaming was a thing. So we never thought we would end up here, which was such a great path for us, because we never thought anyone would ever even watch our movies, because we're like, how? We don't have connections. There was no such thing as streaming, but we kept doing them anyway, and we would make our own DVDs like in our in our house, and like pretend that we were real filmmakers and like hand out DVDs and like, we made this. But slowly, once social media started becoming a thing and we started like building up a little bit of an audience, and then once streaming became a thing, we had a little catalog of films that we can add there, and we're like, oh, we'll see what happens. And somehow there's people out there that are just looking for something to watch, and they're like, oh, Murdercise, that sounds crazy. And then they're just like, I'll watch that. And then they reach out to us like, hey, I just watched your movie. Now I'm going to go back and watch your other movies. And we're like, what?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's so crazy.
Such a surreal experience.
Right. So many people, I think, are going to discover your movies, and then they're going to go back to these ones, you know, and I hope they keep streaming. I think they're going to keep streaming.
Yeah, it's great.
I think they're just, you know, it's really a wonderful system. I think it's great that you guys are benefiting from it, giving you this opportunity.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. These are all for our recorded interview. I'll talk to you in a sec. But that is it. Thank you very much. Wonderful meeting you both. And everyone should go see OnlyFangs.
Yes. Yay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.